Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are. So I'm Alexandra Stocker. I've been probably both to be contact with me. So I work at Drift+Noise, even though Drift+Noise is based in Germany. I actually work from distance in Geneva, Switzerland. And yeah, I'm mostly taking care of anything with communications and sales. You'll be contacting me. Maybe a brief background of myself. Even though I'm from Geneva, working on sea ice information, I've always been passionate about polar navigation and mostly focused on polar navigation around Svalbard in the Arctic. And now I've been working at Drift+Noise for 2 years. And today for this webinar, I'm joined by my colleague, Jacob Belter. He can introduce himself.
Hey, thanks, Ali. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob. I've been working for Drift+Noise for about a year now, in May, actually, so a little less than a year. I used to work at the German Polar Research Institute, the Alfred Wegener Institute in Bremerhaven. I was a PhD student there and a postdoc, going on various expeditions, and really learned what good ice information can do for any type of expedition that you go on. And this is what I'm trying to bring to Drift+Noise. So I'm mainly focused on the research and the consulting part of what we do at Drift+Noise. And I think there's a couple more people in there now, so I think we can get going with the seminar. Over to you, Ali.
So here's the full Drift+Noise team. So we are a small team, as I said. The team is based in Bremen, Germany. Started as an Alfred Wegener Institute spinoff, and we're now part of as Incubed. So IcySea is now an Incubed project, if you want to say. So who's in this team? We're a group of, so I was a team of software developers. They're the one making sure that IcySea is working, gathering all the data and putting it in IcySea. We're also a group of consulting, and also we go on board expeditions and help with navigational support. That's what Jacob mostly helped with. So apart from consulting from land, as with IcySea or other questions with sea ice navigation, we also can come in person, as we did last year on the Endurance 22 expedition, where we were on board helping directly up from the bridge with the ice navigation, which was really fun. And finally, we're in a lot of research projects on how to use satellite imagery to help with operations in polar regions. So there's a need for sea ice information, yes, for research in polar regions, how to get there, for fisheries, and for expedition cruises. So, I mean, tourism industry is growing quite a lot in the polar regions. So how can we provide them with most near real-time ice information? And also general shipping is also increasing in polar regions. So it's just a short video animation of sea ice concentration and shipping activities. So in green is fishing vessels, and in yellow is cruise ship activities. So it's around the archipelago of Svalbard. It's from September 2012, I think it's all the way to September 2018. This was part of my research that I did during my master's. So just to give an idea how variable the sea ice concentration is, and also the activity, how it's very seasonal and increasing over the years, which since 2019, even though there was COVID, it's coming back quite strong. So how did the idea of IcySea start? So here's normally what you have on the screen when you're on the bridge. There's no ice information on the navigation screen. So how can we actually include satellite imagery in this navigation screen? So we're not directly on the screen yet, but we have it on your side device. It could be your computer or your tablet or your mobile phone. So to have access to this data, there's a lot of challenges while navigating in the field. So you have to organize the data that you have, where you're going to store it, how you're actually going to use it, which platform. depends what the ship has. Your internet connection is maybe not the best in higher latitudes. So where do you get the data from? So there's all these challenges that come with accessing sea ice information. So how those are part of the challenges. And there's a lot of data. So even if you get the data, then what do? You have the weather data, there's satellite imageries, there's the ice charts, there's forecast models, there's the AIS with the vessel traffic, the type of age, you want the ice thickness, historical data. So there is all this data available. It's a challenge and takes challenge to get access to them, maybe in a fast period of time when you're navigating in high latitudes and just then gathering all together. So I wanted to find an idea to merge all that together, especially as on the ship, of course, there's not nothing. There is the ship radar. So here's just an example if we're going from point A to B with only a ship radar. So the path would be decided while going forward in the ice. So this would be the path. But if you had the actual full image of the area that you're navigating in with a satellite image, then you would have the full picture and not just your little radar going forward as you navigate. And you'd see there might have been a much faster and fuel efficient route through the ice, and also maybe safety-wise. Jacob, correct me, but this was on the polar strand. This route was done. Yeah. So with all that, getting all the data in one place, and also in an interactive way. So that's where IcySea comes. And to have it explained, maybe not only by me, here's a little catch-up video of IcySea.
To know what is my safest and most fuel-efficient route. That's not easy when ice information is spread across the internet and you have a poor internet connection. So what if you could display sea ice on a map in near real time as simply as this? With IcySea, all the actionable information you need is provided in a single map-based display. So you can take the safest, most direct route to save costs and time to avoid ice entirely, or to find the best route through the ice with an ice-breaking vessel. Here's how easy it is with IcySea. Its map-based interface quickly shows you a variety of high-resolution sea ice information, regularly updated and with 24/7 reliability. Click on the map to get up-to-date satellite imagery, or zoom in to high-resolution images for more detail, even with a low bandwidth connection. IcySea is the one-stop solution for ice information on board. Take a free trial and find the clearest way ahead.
Thank you, Ali, for the quick introduction. And I am now going to show you how to use IcySea. So I'm going to close that window again. What you would do is you open your browser, preferably Chrome, which works best. It does work on Safari and all the other browsers as well, but we found that Chrome was the best working actually. So you have Chrome open, and then you go to icySea.app. After registration, you'll be able to access the interface. You got the map here, you got the different layers up here. But what I find really useful is to not have, access it by Chrome the entire time, but have it as an app on your desktop or phone or wherever you use it. So when you have it in Chrome, there's this little icon up here. When you click on it, it allows you to install IcySea. I'm going to quickly do that. And now you see that the screen has changed, and I'm actually able to use IcySea here. So if I close that and I close Chrome, I can just open the app and have the same map-based interface that I had before with all the functions and functionalities, but I don't have to access the browser every time. And that's something that I find very useful, especially when you're out on the ship. You might be working with IcySea outside or on the helicopter as we did that, and then having it as a little app is much more, much nicer way of using it. Okay, so we have the map-based interface. Just to show you, we also have that in the Antarctic, so it's available for both polar regions. The demonstration, I'm going to switch back to the Arctic, especially the region around Svalbard. And there's different layers and things that you can do here. One is to look at the sea ice concentration. This is the first layer, so you click on the button here, and then it gives you the current ice concentration in the Arctic. So this is from today at 12:17 Zulu time. I'm going to quickly check whether we have an update already, because this layer is updated up to 8 times a day. So I can click on refresh up here, and there's no update available. So this is the most recent image or data layer. And then there's a couple of things you can play around with. So this is the 6 kilometer resolution, but you can switch, and this is the 3K here. You can switch to a little bit higher resolution, which is 3 kilometer. That's really in the area where you have the marginal ice zone, gives you just a little bit more detail. So you have lower ice concentrations in green here, which is about 40–50% concentration. But with the 3K, you get this little bit of extra, maybe sea areas that are ice-free or almost ice-free. So this is really useful tool here to get more detail. And as with all of the layers, there's going to be, or there is the question mark sign, which you can click on, and this gives you information on the data layer that you're looking at. So sea ice concentration, what does it show? What do you need to, be aware of? Because all of these are somewhat scientific data sets, so there's some things in there that might be little errors, like close to the coast, for example, where the ice concentration layer is not as reliable, as I mentioned here. So all of these layers have some information, and there's also an information on coverage here, and the source of the data set is also available in that layer. Important thing maybe right at the beginning, we mentioned that IcySea is really designed to work in low bandwidth connections. So everything that I'm doing here now is not connected to the internet. The only time I connected to the internet was when I clicked on the layer and refreshed the data layer. So only when you manually click on something in here, it will access to the internet and use your bandwidth. And this is really, if I close up the data, the app now and disconnect from the internet, everything that I have already downloaded, so the sea ice concentration layer, will still be available. I won't be able to update because I don't have the connection, but I still have the most recent one that I downloaded. And I think that's something really important to know. So there's never, you don't have to be afraid that you're on the ship and, it's constantly collecting data, and in the end, like 2 days in, you're out of data volume. That's not going to happen. You only get data when you actively click on it. All right, second data layer I want to show you is the ice drift forecast. I'm going to click on the button here again, and you see those little dots and arrows appear here. And the way this layer works is that this is a 10-day forecast of ice movement. So it looks into the future, gives a projection on where the ice is going. So the red dots, there's a legend down here. The red dot would be day 0. So that would be yesterday morning. Let me just quickly update that. Nope, that's the most recent one then. Okay. And it tells you, every dot gives you where the ice is projected to be over the next day. So if I zoom in here, an ice flow that was located here yesterday is going to move to here today, to there tomorrow, and so on, 10 days into the future. Obviously, with these data sets, as always, the shorter the time period in the future, the more accurate it's going to be. So you would want to update that daily, especially, days 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They give you a rough idea of where the ice is going, but as with the weather forecast, you want to check again to make sure that this is actually happening. And the few days ahead are the most certain ones and the most reliable ones here. This is something that has changed a bit since the last update, actually. So what we have now is an Arctic-wide ice drift forecast layer. Previously, we only had the region around Svalbard. And since this is another data set that's available from the Norwegian Polar Institute, from the Meteorological Institute in Norway, we still have that other layer. So you see the white lines here, and they also have dots. So this is a second layer as a reference for the Svalbard region here. As something we found, there's a lot of different data sets out there, but having two different ones to compare, you can see, okay, they agree on the forecast, which gives you confidence in what is shown. And sometimes they disagree, and you got to treat the information that you get a little bit carefully, but still there's information on where the ice is going. And this is especially interesting in the region down here. So at the ice edge, just gonna close that one layer down. Some of our customers are really working close to the ice edge. They want to avoid going into the ice. And for them, it's really good to know, to say, okay, I'm working like right here at the moment, and I want to avoid getting that high concentration ice in the way of my operation. So they can look at what's going to happen and act accordingly to the information that they're given. These information layers are fairly, especially the sea ice concentration is fairly coarse. So you get an idea of the different colors. Okay, this is higher concentration, about around 100 here, but then there's a lot happening in this area here. So what you can also do is, and this is the next layer that I'm going to show you, is a radar layer. And this is based on Sentinel-1 satellite data, radar data, which is freely available, something that a lot of clients asked, why can't I just get that myself? You can, and I have, and this is really the value of IcySea is, I don't know how many of you have downloaded one of those images. It's not that big a deal if you do it on your computer at home with a good internet connection, but being out on a ship, a gigabyte image is going to take not just money because you have to pay for the data volume, but it takes time. So you spend hours sitting there to get one image, and you don't even know whether that image is suitable for the region that you're working in. So here, what we do with those images that are available, they come in, we process them and cut them down into those little tiles that you can see here, those squares. And when you click, it's a right click here, and then this little drop-down menu opens up, and you can say, get low-res radar image. You can already see those satellite images here. I'm going to just load a couple of them so we can really look at them properly. And what you really see in here is different colors. So it's a grayscale. And the important thing with those radar images is they're not like taking a picture from the satellite, but everything that you see is really ice. They're independent of cloud cover. So even if there's clouds above this ice, you will see the radar image, and you will see ice through the radar image. So everything that you see is ice. The gray is never going to be clouds. And it's also independent of the time of the day. So even at night, those images are going to be made, and as soon as they come in, made available on IcySea. So this is the low resolution. And if you're really interested in a region, let me just go over here. There's a lot of, you can see that with I'm just going to turn that on. The sea ice concentration is really variable. So there's lower ice concentrations here, but a bit higher there. So it's really interesting to know what's going on in that region. You can already see different larger ice flows, but then there's patches of dark here that might be open water. So if you want to have an even closer look, you can click again, right click, and then get the full resolution radar image. And you can already see the difference of these images. And downloading one tile, full resolution, is going to be 1.7 megabytes of data download. And again, that only happens in the moment I click on this. This is when I download data, and now it's not connecting to the internet again. So this is really when you want to go into the ice, you're stuck in the ice, for example, and you want to get a detailed look at your surroundings, maybe even compare it to the radar image that you have on the bridge, and you can really see individual ice flows, open water in between. And if you're stuck in the area around here, for example, you would try to, move out through the open water patches, and this really gives you a detailed look, just like the picture that Ali showed in the presentation. One other thing that I wanted to show you, and now I'm just looking, there it is, is I just said that it's interesting to know where you are in that entire picture. And this is something that we have included in IcySea as well. So just zoom out. There's the user position icon up here. And if you click on that, it will look for where you are. And obviously, I am in northern Germany right now. But if I was on the ice, this little icon would show up right where you are in the ice. And this is really something that we found very, very useful when you're operating in ice. Alexandra mentioned the endurance expedition. It was vital to know where you are in reference to the ice that you were moving in. Again, for the radar images, there's the help window. Just going to go up. So it really explains what you can see, helps a bit with the interpretation. So there's a different grayscale. There's never clouds, as I mentioned, and there's different types of ice that you can identify from those images. But sometimes that's hard, and it's even hard for someone who's worked with those images for his entire professional career. So usually, it takes a bit of getting used to, but there's a lot of help here available as well. So an area like this, for example, is explained, or you can see that this is younger first-year ice flows, smaller ice flows. And then you got areas like this, for example, which looks really, continuously. It's a similar pattern. So this is open water with a lot of sea state at the moment. And this is really something that you can use to interpret what you see. This, for example, is really something that happens quite a lot. People think that those are clouds in the area here. So you would see ice in this area, and this looks like clouds, but again, it's not going to be clouds. This is really newly formed ice. It's so thin that it's just because of the winds, it's just twirling around, moving like this and making these cloud-like features. And this is a bit of help with the interpretation, and this is something that we're going to mention in the end again. If there's ever, doubt about what you see, you just drop us a message, and we're always happy to help. Like, we look into IcySea a lot ourselves, and we're really happy to help with the interpretation. It's always going to be part of the subscription. So there's everything available on that side. Another thing that's really important, I mentioned that we have the position, but if you're in an area of ice, but you don't know how old the image is, you might not find yourself in this open area right next to an ice flow. And that can be because the image is older than you expect it to be. So there's another button, it's right next to the radar image layer here, show tile age. And that shows you in color, it's a different color scale. So red tiles are really older images, and these are fairly new ones at 9 hours. So this is really, as soon as the data comes in, it gets put into IcySea, and you will be able to know how old the image is and compare the situation that you see outside your window with, what data is available. Okay, I'll close that. Then there's a couple of things up here. So there's the information button here. It gives you information on what kind of data you can see in IcySea. And also we regularly update and add new features, and this is where you check for updates, and if they're available, you can you can update IcySea. Again, you click on something, that's when it connects to the internet. So updates should be done when you have better internet connection. Otherwise, it's going to take a little longer and take some of the bandwidth, the data volume that you have. There's another button to get in contact with us via email. I already mentioned the position. Everything that I downloaded, you can also export. So in that case, those radar tiles can be exported if you have, you use your own QGIS system on board. The data it's like a data provider. It's not just for you to look at and use, which is obviously the intention, but if you, for whatever reason, prefer having it on your own computer, everything that you can download here, you can use on your own GIS system. And then there's the settings menu up here. I already showed you in the beginning where you can switch from the Arctic image to the Antarctic one. You can update your subscription. So if you used IcySea last year and your subscription ran out and you have it again for this year, this way you update and make sure that you have the latest features and access to everything available here. If anything of that is not working, just let us know. We're happy to unlock everything for you. There's one more interesting thing that's sort of an experimental layer that we work on. So IcySea is constantly developing, and everything that we find useful and hear from our clients that they think is useful, we try to include. One of these things are classified satellite images. I just clicked on this, so this is now available. You can see here, there's a fourth layer. This is classified optical image. What that is, I'm going to show you here. I'm going to click on this. Again, it's connecting, downloading the image. And this is what you get. This is an optical image, so it's like a picture taken from space. And this is why you have a lot of gray up here. And in this case, these are clouds because it's an optical image, but you can see the red here and the area green here. And this is what the classified image is. So it's not just a picture taken from space, but there's a system that looks at those images and classifies what is seen on the picture. And this is what this layer allows you to look at. So if you go on the question mark again, it tells you what those different colors mean. So the green that I showed you at the bottom is going to be open water, gray is variations of clouds, and then you have different colors for ice of uncertain thickness with different snow cover types. There's thicker ice in blue, ice covered with wet snow. There's a lot of layers in here that can really be helpful and tell you what you can see. And I just want to zoom in here to show you a bit better what you're looking at. So, for example, you still see those individual ice flows here. They're in red now, and you have the yellow in between. And if we go back to the help menu, see that this is probably really thin ice without snow cover, especially dark. So it's really newly formed ice. This is what you see. And you can imagine this being an older ice flow. There's snow cover on it. And then there was some open water around that ice flow. But now, since it's really cold up there, it started to freeze. And this is why this is classified as really thin ice without snow cover. And then you can always put those radar images on top. And I'm just going to do that here. Again, right click, get the full resolution. And now you can compare what you see on the radar image with what you see on the classified image there. You have to be aware that these images are sometimes of different age. So the classified image has always information of how old it is. It's from yesterday afternoon. And the radar image, as I showed you here, is about 21 hours old. So they're fairly close, probably made at the same time. And there's actually one feature. If you look at this area here, this ice flow, if I turn off the radar image now, you can really see the opening here. This is the ice flow I was talking about. It's a bit shifted, but this really gives you multiple layers of information on the area that you're interested in. And you got the ice drift forecast in here as well. So you expect this ice to move towards the south within the next couple of days. And this is really on different layers, and you also know what kind of ice you're looking at. And yeah, so this is what we're working on. As I said, it's not operational. As soon as we have an image, it comes in here, but we're working on implementing that for not just individual regions, but maybe the entire Arctic soon. Okay, I think that would be enough for now. Maybe one other thing. You see that the radar tile areas are somewhat limited. Currently, there's no one that we know, or well, no one that that uses IcySea working along the northern sea route. So this area is not covered at the moment. However, if you are going in this area, or you're going in the area north of Greenland, or closer to the North Pole, we can always make those regions available if they're not in IcySea yet. So yeah, don't worry if what you want to look at is not in there. Drop us a message, and we're happy to include that. It's going to take a bit of time because, as I said, it's changing as soon as the images come in. But you should be able to access the data as soon as possible. Okay, I think, oh wait, maybe one more thing, and that's the distance measuring tool, just something that is really useful. You can, again, use the drop-down menu with the right click measure distance. So from the point you started, this is, for example, really interesting if you want to see how far the ice is going to move. You can compare, move in a little bit, compare or get how long those distances between the points are. So you look at ice drift of about 6 miles between those 2 days, for example, and you can really use that to measure the distance that you're looking at, but also use it as a tool for navigating, finding ways through different areas. And you double click, and this measurement lines are going to be in there. So you can plot your course, say you want to go through Hinlopen Strait, how long is that going to be? How big is an ice floe? How big is an open water area? You can always do that in the app yourself. Okay, and I think that's enough for IcySea so far. And I will go back to the presentation quickly. So that was a live demonstration. And we already saw that. I talked about that briefly during the presentation. We used to get the question, is IcySea ready to use? Because we tell people, it's never going to be finished. However, it is, you can use it. It's a useful tool already. Meaning behind, it's never finished is that we're constantly looking at all types of research that comes out in terms of ice information, features that are already out there but not included yet. So with the feedback from you, we constantly develop it to make it an even better tool than it is already. So it is already helpful and useful, but yeah, we're excited about the project, and we want to continue to develop it and include tools that you think are useful for whatever operation you're interested in and you're doing. Okay, one other thing that I can show you, this is something, one of the next features that's going to come out fairly soon. And I'm going to go back. We can even open it here. Oh, okay. So this looks like IcySea. However, it is our own sort of back-end version of IcySea where new features are tested before they come out. And I'm going to show you this. Something's probably going to come out within the next 2 weeks. And this is something that is really useful. I had to click on each one of those tiles individually to download it. And sometimes when you're interested in a larger area, that can be quite tedious work. So what you can do as soon as that new feature comes out is you can click right, and then you get another option in the drop-down menu, get multiple radar images. And this is, you open up like a draw for a polygon, and then you click left and click left again, and then with a double click you close that, and then it tells you how many tiles you're going to download. It's right now it's limited to 150 because we still want to avoid that, accidentally too many tiles get downloaded and then too much data is used up. So it really tells you what you're downloading. So for 54 tiles at the high resolution, you would now need 135 megabytes. I just tell them to do that. And then it starts downloading those tiles, and it does that individually because we don't want to, have all the jobs running at the same time and using up space. But now you're able to download multiple tiles at the same time and avoid, getting your fingers tired from clicking and clicking again. So yeah, this is the newest thing that's going to come out really soon. Other things that are not as far as the multiple tile selection are things that we work on with those research projects that I mentioned to you. So one thing is that we want to include a layer that is not just classifying optical images because they're still dependent of clouds and night, but we want to do that for the radar images where I mentioned there's no clouds and it's independent of night. So one project that we work on is to classify those radar images so that you get the information of what kind of ice is seen on those images, and you're not, limited by the limitations of the optical images anymore. So open water, thin and thick ice, those things are going to be there eventually and on those radar images as well. Another thing that is really interesting, and it's a really complex issue, but if integrated, it's going to be useful, is something that you can imagine from rain radar. When you want to look at, where's the rain cloud moving, this is something that we want to try to develop for ice. So based on the radar image that you saw and the ice drift information that we included already, we want to make animations of ice available. So instead of, looking at, how old is this, and those are the dots, and I'm following the dots, we want to make sure that you can see where the ice is moving in near real time. But yeah, as I said, this is ongoing research, is a really complex issue, but we're trying our best to include that as soon as possible as well. Finally, and this is probably the grand vision of the entire thing, is that we want to create something that's called the Google Maps of the Arctic and Antarctic Ocean, where you really tell IcySea where you are, where you want to go, and then based on all the information that I showed you and all the information that's going to come in there, it's going to calculate an optimal route. So you start here and you want to go to this point, for example, and then based on how the ice is drifting, then the ice is classified. So the different blue and gray colors here show different types of ice. And it's going to look for the easiest, most fuel efficient route through, what's ahead of you until you reach your point. And this is the ongoing FastCast2 project. And ultimately, yeah, we want to include that in IcySea. So it can be used like Google Maps, basically.